If you want to be able to write grants efficiently, if you want to be able to secure research funding predictably, what do you need to know? That is what we are talking about today. If you're new around here, my name is Sarah Dobson. I am a research grant consultant, and my team and I help early career researchers write clear and persuasive research grant applications. So I've been doing this for a really long time. I have worked with dozens and dozens of PIs, advising them on how to write more competitive, persuasive research grant applications. And I have also worked with thousands of students, teaching them how to write clear and compelling grant applications to virtually any biomedical research funder. And I have 3 pieces of advice that I want to share with you today about grant writing. In a previous video, I shared what I think are the key skills and frameworks that you need to have to be a really confident and prolific grant writer. And today I want to take a little bit of a different approach. I want to talk about sort of overarching skills that I think are really important, and just that overarching advice that I am giving you after years and years and years of observing through my one-on-one consulting work and through my teaching, what I think you really need to know to be successful at this. So the first piece of advice that I have for you is to know where you're headed. And what I mean by that is you need to be really clear on what is that big scientific problem that you want to solve, and how do you want to go about solving it? What are you going to do to sort of chip away at that problem over time? And the reason that that is so important is because you are always going to have a lot of opportunities come your way, whether that is a last minute funding opportunity announcement that you feel like you have to kind of drop everything and prepare a grant application, or you might have a colleague tap you on the shoulder to say, hey, do you want to work on this together? And the clearer you can be about your research wheelhouse and the work it is that you want to be doing and the impact that you want to make with your skills and perspective, the easier it will be for you to figure out which one of those opportunities or which of those opportunities are most aligned with where you're headed, so that you're able to really streamline the work that you're doing in service of this larger goal that you have to solve this big scientific or clinical or population level problem, right? So knowing where you're headed allows you to be more efficient and also more impactful, because you're clear on where you want your impact to be, and you're not sort of scattering your focus across a bunch of different opportunities that come your way. So piece of advice number 2 is to take grant writing seriously. And what I mean by that is, even though grant writing and honestly writing peer-reviewed papers is the work that is really going to move the needle for you the most in your career, that same work is the work that ends up happening off the side of your desk or in the evenings or on the weekends, right? It's not the work that you do during daytime weekday hours as part of your role. And what I am recommending and advising is that you prioritize your grant writing and other writing activities, because it is so important to your success as a scientist. Not only is writing the way that you are able to secure grant funding for your research projects, it's also the way that you communicate with the broader scientific community and you engage in conversations in the literature, right, with your peer-reviewed publications. So doing that work is crucial not only for your career advancement in terms of tenure and promotion, but it's also crucial in terms of that impact that you want to make that we just talked about in advice number 1, right? So getting really focused and prioritizing that time in your calendar and protecting that time in your calendar is really crucial for you to create a sustainable practice around writing, whether that's writing grants or papers. And that is going to allow you to be a really successful, prolific scientist. So piece of advice number 3 is to put yourself in your reviewer's shoes. And what I mean by that is that when we are writing grants, we typically think about it as just a checklist of tasks, right? We have the guidelines in front of us. We need to complete these different sections of the application, and it's mostly just paperwork. But grant writing is actually really strategic, and it is a way for you to communicate with the person who is reading your grant, who is your peer reviewer, right? And so that takes a completely different approach than just filling out an application and checking a bunch of boxes. It requires that you think about your audience, you think about your reader, and you imagine what it would be like to read your application for the very first time. Because one of the things that happens when you're writing a grant is that you don't really think about who's on the other side of it, right? You're thinking mostly about you and what you need to convey and what you need to do to fill out the required elements of the application. But what you ought to be doing is imagining the person on the other side of this, the person who is tired and hungry and stressed and volunteering to read a bunch of grant applications and assess them. So what is it that they need to know? What do you need to do to bring them up to speed on the conversations in the literature? And most importantly, around your thinking. So how did you arrive at this research question, and how did you arrive at the approach that you're going to take to answer this research question? It's very easy to forget, especially when you're under stress and you're writing very quickly. It's very easy to forget that the person on the other end cannot read your mind, right? They're not sitting there beside you as you're writing. They don't know the steps that you've taken to arrive at a particular conclusion. And so one of the most important things that you can do as a grant writer is show your work, show how you got to a certain question, or show the details of how you arrived at your general hypothesis, and describe the details of the scientific premise that allowed you to design the work that you've designed, right? It's really important to not take for granted that the person on the other end who's reading your application is looking at this for the very first time. And it's you cannot avoid spelling things out for people and really connecting the dots for them. And if you do just let them make their own assumptions or draw their own conclusions, that is really putting your application at risk. So putting yourself in your reviewer's shoes is one of the most important skills that you need to develop as a grant writer if you want to be really successful at it. But it's also one of the trickiest and most challenging, because it requires that you give yourself a lot of time to sort of step away from your application and look at it through somebody else's eyes. And even just strengthening that muscle of separating yourself from your writing is it's challenging, it's tricky, but it's very much worth your time to write stronger applications that have a higher chance of success. So again, to recap, the 3 main pieces of advice that I have for you to write better grants in a more efficient way and to be able to secure research grant funding more predictably is to know where you're headed, to take grant writing seriously, and to put yourself in your reviewer's shoes. And if you found this useful, I want to invite you to join me in a free 6-week grant writing fundamentals course that I'm running starting in mid-May of 2025. This is going to cover those core skills that you really need to master if you want to be a strong grant writer. And this is relevant to no matter which biomedical research grant agency that you are planning to apply to. These skills are useful no matter where you want to apply, whether that's NIH, whether that's a private foundation, or any other source of funding. These are core skills that are going to serve you no matter what. So if you would like to participate in this free course, you can sign up at the link below this video, and I will see you in mid-May.